Hello everyone, my name's Katie and I'm here with Bren Maude, and we're going to talk today about his illustrious career in racing and living with CMT. So, Bren, hello, thank you for
Hi. Yeah, hi, Katie.
Now I sense obviously there is an accent. Can you tell me roughly where you're based in the
Yeah,
UK?
so I'm a Yorkshire lad. So I went to school over like Lancashire in Burnley, and then I'm a Halifax. Lived in Halifax ever since, really.
Amazing, very cool. And who do you live with?
Just me these days. Yeah, just little old me, really.
Hey, that's glorious. Company, sometimes, not needed when you're happy and
I know I need a dog or something, don't I? I need a little dog.
well, yes. I suppose with the need for speed though, you probably have to get some kind of like a racing dog when you're like
Maybe
a
like
whippet or a
what?
greyhound.
No, like a husky. Maybe a husky would be the better option.
That would be very cool. You could see if they can keep up with you.
Yeah, they probably outpace me, I think.
Well, I'd just really be interested as well to know a little bit about your experience with CMT. Obviously, we're here with CMT UK and Comment Magazine. So would you mind just telling me a little bit about kind of how you were sort of diagnosed, how you first found out about the condition and
Yeah. So it was a bit of a strange one, really. So my dad had issues, but we didn't really know what caused it or anything like that. Like with his muscles and feet and stuff like that. And then as we started getting older, we had like little issues going on, but again, we just thought, oh, it's just one of them things. And then I think my eldest brother, like all three of us have got the condition. My eldest brother was out for a run and he just snapped his ankle. So it's like, what's happened there? Like, how has he done it? So we started looking into it and then obviously went for the testing. And then, yeah, that's when we found we actually had something that we could actually call it as, obviously a CMT. So yeah, that was a bit of a shock to the system. But it's nice to be able to put a name to the condition so you actually know, what it is and what it does. So yeah, that's pretty much how I found out about it in the first place. And then like it gets worse obviously with age. So I didn't notice any big impacts up until, well, I suppose recently, where certain stuff you do, especially with the racing, your muscles get like really achy, or long distance traveling, long walks and stuff like that can get a bit painful. But yeah, I mean, we deal with it the best we do, really.
yeah, of course. And I mean, I think that's the sort of the best way to tackle anything like any sort of long-term conditions, isn't it? Sort of testing your limits, but also kind of getting to know what works for you and what the best way sort of to manage long term. Did you find that sort of during lockdown in particular, I guess, where you're doing sort of more walks and things like that, well, lots of people were, some people weren't, but did you find
Yeah.
that was sort of where you started to notice more of the
Not really. I mean, lockdown's been a bit weird for me. So I work in construction. I'm a contract manager for construction, like temporary electric company. So we literally haven't stopped at all through COVID. It's been non-stop and absolutely manic. Now, yeah, so I haven't been out doing a lot of walking now. However, about 2 years ago, for some reason, I set myself a bit of a crazy challenge. And we decided to go to the Himalayas and climb a Himalayan mountain. So up until like before I planned that, I never used to do any walking. I mean, I drive places, cars, walking isn't really for me generally. So yeah, I started doing a lot of training, like building up to that. And the first few times I'd kind of go out, I'd come home and I'd be in absolute agony. Like your muscles, you can hardly move after you've done a decent walk. But then I found if you keep kind of doing it and practicing, your body gets used to it, and it was a lot easier for me. So by the time I actually went to the Himalayas, I was fine with it. I never had pains or anything like that, which was weird. So I guess, yeah, just keep it up and keep going, really.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think a really sort of exciting story to hear for people that perhaps are kind of getting to know the condition or getting to know their own kind of limits with it, and hearing that. That's so cool. How long did you train for?
Not long enough. So basically, the plan was to train for a good year going up to it. But as you'll know from how long it's taken us to get this sorted, work is manic. So trying to get the time was tight. So we was talking more months than years for the training. And I was a bit probably underfit for it, but I mean, I completed it. So yeah, I was the only one on the team to actually complete the climb. So that was good.
Oh wow, well you can't
Yeah.
argue with those results. Any
Yeah, that
top
was good.
tips for post walking to rest those muscles? You like
Well,
straight in an ice cold bath, or is it?
there's not a lot of no. Well, you go up to about 6,500 meters on the mountain, so there wasn't really any baths or showers, or it's imagine like Kilimanjaro, but a lot higher and a lot colder and windy. So, yeah, there's not a lot of luxuries at that altitude, unfortunately.
No, I can imagine. I guess you're just sort of thinking about that route home and back down.
Well, you never think about the route down until you're at the top, and then all of a sudden it dawns on you, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, it's not the easiest journey back down."
I can imagine, but still incredible. That's so fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
So I guess that will lead us into, obviously you've always had that kind of slight mentality of pushing yourself and challenging yourself. Is that, you think, why you sort of first got into racing? Because obviously, as you mentioned, you have a career in construction and you sort of race in your free time and have done, really sort of amazing things thus far. But how did you first get into that?
Yeah, so since I was absolutely tiny, so I'm talking 4 or 5 years old, I just literally remember waking up in the mornings and we'd all go downstairs, we'd put a quilt on the floor and we'd just sit and watch like the Formula One on TV. And that was literally my dream since I was tiny to get into motorsport. Granted, Formula One would have been where I wanted to go, but you need a lot of money and a lot of time, and we didn't have that. So I remember chatting when I was at school and they're like, "Oh, what do you want to do when you're older?" I'm like, "I want to be a race driver." And kids are like, "Yeah, never going to happen." But yeah. I guess you kind of drive to it. And then a few years ago, I entered, basically it was like a driver race competition. So loads of people from the country entered. And I did it for 2 years and I got top 10 both years. And I thought, you know what, like, I'm just going to buy the car myself and I'll compete against them. So that's what I did last year. Last year was my first attempt at motorsport, and it went really well last year. This year, not so well, but you win some, you lose some.
Of course, exactly. It's all practice makes perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
Sort of debut. So what were the races that you were sort of taking part in last year?
So the last year we was supporting the British GT. So that's, I suppose it's kind of the next one under British touring cars in the country. So you've got your Ferraris, Lamborghinis, all that type of stuff racing on the circuit, and it's absolutely epic to watch. So we were basically supporting those guys. Now I race the car's called a Ginetta, and they're made in Leeds, so it's quite a local car company. And it's a Ginetta G40, so it's probably the smallest version that they do at the minute. And throughout the season, you'd race at multiple tracks. So we've done, obviously, all the big ones. You do Silverstone, Brands Hatch, Donington. There's so many circuits that we did. Alton Park as well. That was one of my favourite. So yeah, it was quite an emotional year for me last year, though. I really enjoyed it.
That's incredible. And what do your siblings race as well, or is it just you that's? Yeah,
my siblings are a bit more sensible than me. It's unfortunately it does cost quite a bit. So yeah. any spare money you have, it's gone. So yeah, my eldest has a family and stuff like that, and he's got a business, so he's obviously a bit more sensible than I am. I've got a twin brother as well, but he moves over to Australia in the next week, assuming he can finally get in, that is. So yeah, he hasn't been doing the motorsport. We all do track days and stuff like that, where we'll take cars, go and just race around and have a good laugh, but it's not the same as actual racing. Yeah,
of course. But at least I'm sure they're probably all there supporting you sort of on the sidelines.
Yeah, to be fair. Yeah, so my brother was basically, when you get into motorsport, you're normally run by a team. Again, they can get quite costly. So the first year, my brother obviously is a mechanic. He has his own garage. The plan was he was going to run me for the first year. But my competitive side kicked in, and I thought I need someone with a bit of experience that can like give me the best shot of winning, really. So yeah, that was last year. But no, they've all been really supportive. My twin brother's been to most of the events last year, and he's done a couple this year as well. Plus, quite a lot of friends who've just turned up and supported as well. So it's been really cool.
And I can imagine this is probably a question you hear all the time, and particularly from sort of friends when you're down the pub. But when you sort of get in that car and that the
adrenaline,
the adrenaline, like what's going through your mind while you're racing, aside from
it's such a strange sensation. Like on a serious note, you pull up before you actually go out on the circuit, you may be sat for 20, 30 minutes in the holding area. So you're strapped in the car, you've got your helmet on, everything's completely on, and the car is hot. So you're literally sat there boiling, and I don't know, the nerves and everything builds up. And my first year, I remember sat in the car and you just think to yourself, why am I doing this? The nerves are horrendous, honestly. And then you go and do your I suppose it's like your green flag lap where you go and line up on the grid. And as you're going around, the nerves are horrendous. As soon as the lights change, that's it. Like all of it goes and you just focus, it's really weird. And then, and it doesn't feel like an adrenaline rush because you're that focused on what you're doing. And then obviously at the end of the race, it's kind of like, what's happened? Like you hardly remember anything because, obviously, it was going on that quick. It's hard to keep up.
yeah, of course. There must be such kind of random sort of flashes of thoughts come into your brain, but it's like get that game face on and that comes out.
The main issues that you have is obviously when you're racing around, it's not a contact sport, but let's be honest, it's motorsport. So you do have the occasional knock and bump with people. And the one thing you learn as a race driver is you never argue straight away at the end of a race because your opinion of what happened isn't the same. Like you don't remember things accurately. So you get out, you watch the footage back, and then you might go over and say, what the heck was that about? But you learn to keep your mouth shut until you know exactly what's happened.
That's a really good tip.
A little tip if anyone wants to get into motorsport.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking, do you find that your CMT kind of impacts the way in which sort of you drive? Do you make sort of compensation for certain things, or how does that?
Yeah, definitely. So I didn't notice until recently. So I'm still getting quite a lot of coaching. One of my coaches, Scott, he's been trying to get me, obviously, my driving standard up a lot. And one thing that you have to do is use the brake pedal really hard. So like in your road car, the brakes aren't the same. Like you'll press it and it's nice and spongy. Ours aren't like that. If you want to stop, you have to press hard. So when you first initially hit the brakes, it literally is as hard as you possibly can. Now, without having obviously the muscle degradation and stuff like that, you do struggle a little bit. So you can't obviously hit with the same force certain other people can at times. Especially when the races go on like 20, 25 minutes into a race, you really notice it and your legs kind of turn to jelly a bit. If you can imagine how quick your feet have to move constantly, it's hard to keep up.
I can imagine, definitely. But I guess, again, practice is one of those things, just getting more and more comfortable with it and building up that muscle memory in a way that potentially might sort of support a little bit of what's from the condition. I
think what I should be doing is a lot more gym time, to be fair, but again, let's be honest, time's precious these days, isn't it? So trying to get enough time to do as much gym as you need, it's hard. And then the other thing is it's stamina. Like you wouldn't think it's quite like some of my friends, I let them have I brought them out in the car, and as I get out, there's sweat, the steam coming off your back. They're like, "What's up with you? You're only driving a car." Anyhow, I let my friends have a drive in the car, and they got out, and honestly, the state of them, it was hilarious. Yeah,
I bet that shut them up.
Yeah, they've changed their opinion now.
I can imagine, definitely. So, do you mind just sort of explaining what type of races you race? And you mentioned a little bit earlier on and the
yes
car, and I'm assuming so obviously that's in the amateur sort of class, and the vision is to get up to pro? What's
well, kind of. I mean, this season, we've kind of moved up a bit. We support the British touring cars this year, which again, that's one of the biggest motorsport events in the country. It was amazing seeing all the fans there. So I absolutely love that. What happens is on a like British touring car weekend, for example, you get the main cars that everyone's coming to see, and then you have support races as well. So it might be the Clio Cup, which are Renault Clios that'll be racing round. Where in the Ginetta G40s, you might have BMWs, stuff like that. And what happens? You'll all have 20-minute sessions. So you'll go out, qualify. Whoever qualifies, obviously fastest, starts off first. We don't have certain championships. They have weight disadvantages if you win. So you get more weight put on the car to kind of slow you down, to fair it up a bit. We're not at that level. You don't have to do anything like that. And then normally most race weekends, we'll have 3 races. And yeah, the higher up the grid you come, the more points you get. And at the end of the season, obviously, hopefully you win the championship.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that's the result.
yeah, but I don't know what the plan is for next year yet. It's the championship that I've raced this year. They're not running it next year at Ginetta, and it's moving to a championship called Britcar. So it's not quite as high profile that we've been doing. So I think I'm probably going to end up entering that one to get a bit more experience. And then maybe I'm going to put a bit of a 3-year plan together to try and build back up. Ginetta have another amazing car. I think it's called the G56, and it's literally such you see the car and it's just amazing. So I think that's probably going to be something I'm going to try and aim to, depending on how friendly my sponsors are next year.
Of course, fingers crossed for that. What is it about a particular car that's like?
Yeah, it's basically the next step up from the one I'm in now, and it's got the car uses aerodynamics to stick you to the ground a lot more. So at the minute we don't really use the aero, so it's just the grip of the tire. Once you move up to this, like a car with aero, the faster you go, the more downforce, so the more grip you actually have. So it can get a bit scary around the bends, like. If you was in your road car turning a bend, you'd shoot straight off, but you can go a hell of a lot quicker when you've got aero. So I think that's something that had intrigued me a little bit. And the cars just look amazing. And they still support the British touring cars, which is the best event to support. So yeah, I think that's the plan for the future anyhow.
Brilliant. Well, all the best, because I'm sure there's a very bright future ahead of you.
I hope so.
And I think so. I'm right in saying, Otto, that you've set up sort of the motoring team with your family. So you mentioned your brother's garage. You used to work with a little bit. And is it Assetto Motorsport? Are you still involved?
Yes. Sort of. So, Assetto was the first team I joined last year, and they were cracking. They helped me out so much in my first year. To be fair, some of the guys on the team, I wouldn't be racing if it wasn't for them. So last year I had I had a lot of technical issues. I blew up a gearbox, I blew up 2 engines, and they're not cheap at all. Like for a new engine, you're looking like £8,000 to get that sorted. So halfway through the season last year, the engine blew up, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like that was me done in motorsport. And luckily, there's a lad on the team, Giles Dawson, and he basically had a spare engine. There was his backup one, and he was so generous. He just gave me the engine to use. So that's literally the only reason I managed to keep racing. So I was really happy with that. And this year, unfortunately, I couldn't run with Assetto this year. So I've ended up moving to another team this year called CTS. So again, all the teams are so good. Like they've got a lot of knowledge, and the support they give you, the training and stuff like that. It's just really good. So yeah, that's I think this year and next year I'll be with CTS again, depending on whatever I end up doing.
Fantastic. And you mentioned there as well a little bit about learning a lot from people that you've kind of come into contact with through the sport, other drivers, etc. What's some of the sort of I mean, you've already delivered some great tips, but any other kind of advice you'd give to perhaps any kids that would be sort of sitting and listening to you talk now? Is there anything you'd pass on?
Oh yes, you need to pay for a good instructor, because this. So I've had quite a lot of instructors over the past, and it definitely benefits to have someone who knows your style, who knows the vehicles, just that type of stuff. I mean, it does seem like a waste of money paying someone to sit next to you and educate you, but it's the only way, honestly. Like, when I used to do track days, I'd be driving around and I was like, yeah, I'm quick, like I beat everyone. When I went go-karting, again, I'd win everything that I did, because I guess you have to have a little bit of natural talent. And then when I started racing with some of the guys like this year, last year, nah, I wasn't quick. Like, I was playing at it. All of a sudden, when you realize what a car will do, and the only way you get there is by coaching and, generally join a team that have other people, similar talent to you, maybe slightly better, so you can learn off them. Following guys that are quicker, it brings you on so much. So, yeah, and then it gives you a lot more confidence. So, yeah, definitely coaching and enjoy it. Like, if it gets to the point you're not enjoying it anymore, it's not for you. Like, you really need to, you need to take the highs with the lows. And if the lows are outweighing it, that's when you knock it on the head. Because with motorsport, unfortunately, you get so many highs, but a hell of a lot of lows as well.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Definitely, thank you. And for those sort of with CMT who perhaps might not necessarily have that dose of natural talent for racing, but are interested in trying something a bit outside their comfort zone, like motorsports, for example.
Yeah.
Do you have kind of any sort of advice for just
So
getting into that mental zone of putting yourself into a adrenaline situation?
Go-karting is an amazing place to start. So you can go near me in Leeds. There's a indoor go-karting track. It's only, I don't know, 30 minutes, maybe 30 quid, something like that, to go and practice. Go with a few of your mates and just have a laugh about it. And don't treat it like dodgems either. Like, it's not meant to be a contact sport. So the sooner you learn not to be hitting people, the better. So yeah, younger lads maybe start at that, or girls as well. There's a lot of women that are getting into motorsport nowadays, which is fantastic. And then if they want to kind of progress from that, there's so many different routes you can go down. There's rally driving days that you can go and do. The amount of fun you can have in a rally car, like just drifting around on mud, is epic. So, 100%, I'd suggest go-karting and maybe try and rally driving as well.
Awesome. That sounds great. I'm sure many people will be tempted.
Well, if they did want to come up to the next level, obviously my team's CTS Motorsport, they have so many vehicles. You can basically hire the car for the day. They'll take you to the track. They'll get you a coach, and you can basically learn to drive in. Well, you can drive in a car like mine, a Caterham. They've got so many vehicles. So that'd be a cracking birthday present if someone's parents were feeling generous.
That's a great idea. With Christmas coming up, who knows? I want to be feeling generous. And,
definitely.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess I'd just be interested, a few more quick questions. I'd be interested to know, in terms of sort of some of your favourite tracks, and perhaps some of those that you're still sort of waiting, they're in the sort of future, through that next tunnel, you're hoping you'll be able to race on them at some point in life. What are some of the favourites and the ones you're looking forward to?
I think some of the favourite circuits that I've actually raced on, you've got like Alton Park, Brands Hatch, and Croft that I've just done recently. Now, I think I like those tracks because the walls are right next to the circuit, which it doesn't sound good at all, but it builds your adrenaline. And if you make one mistake, it'll hurt. Luckily, I've only had one trip into the wall since I've started, and that was at my last race. So yeah, I mean, it's not gone too bad. I think those circuits are some ones that I really like. And then I suppose a circuit that's got something special for me, Donington Park. since I first started doing track days, that was the only circuit like all of us went to, like me, my brother's friends. We'd go down there quite often, get a bit of practice, and we used to love it. And then again, that's the circuit I was at when my engine blew up. So I've got all the highs and lows of all that going on. So that was emotional. And then my last race last season, I hadn't won an actual race up until the last race weekend last year. I've had seconds and third places, but I never won. And the last race weekend that we had at Donington last year, I qualified on first for every race. I won every race. It was like a perfect weekend. So yeah, that's definitely got a special place in my heart as Donington.
Excellent. And just as a quick recap, because I know you have mentioned this before as well, but sort of what's the sort of future look like for you then? What are the next couple of years look like ideally?
Yeah, so I'm hoping to pick up a few more sponsors along the way, and then hopefully maybe move up to the Ginetta, the G56. After that, who knows? I mean, I'd love to do British touring cars. Like, if you have you ever been to a British touring car event at the minute? Or
I haven't actually. It's
you did have an invite. You should have
after this.
You should have come and joined us at the last one. But probably racing again, maybe in a British touring car, would be epic. But you just need so much money and a lot of sponsor support to get to that level. But it's amazing. Like, I was stood up on the grass verge watching the touring cars, and I got all emotional at it. It's like you see like hundreds of thousands of spectators watching, and I don't know. It kind of brought like emotions up that you didn't think you'd have, going to an event like that. So yeah, I'd highly recommend you trying one of them.
Definitely, it sounds incredible for both the audience and for the drivers.
Definitely.
Everyone's adrenaline sort of rich and excited. But yeah, it sounds glorious. When does the racing season normally run from?
So normally it's about Easter, bank holiday. Our last race this year was about 2 weeks ago, so it's probably from about Easter till now, to be fair. And I think we have about 7 race weekends a season, so maybe 20 races, something like that, all in total.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, it sounds really great fun, and it sounds like you're doing sort of brilliantly. How did the last race go?
Yeah, so the last race was interesting. Like I say, this year hasn't been the best year for me. Budgets have been tight, so trying to get enough practice and stuff hasn't gone to plan. So the last race, I just thought, look, I'm giving it everything, and I did. And I managed quite an ambitious overtake on one of the lads, and it worked. He managed to get past me and I don't know, he didn't really want me doing the same ambitious overtake again, so he shut the door on me, which ended up with me ploughing towards a wall. So yeah, the car took a bit of damage, unfortunately, but it's on the repair now. I'm sure the team will get it shipshape in no time, and I can be back out practicing.
Yeah, I'm ready for those next races in Easter. And I
suppose,
definitely, it's the highs and the lows and learning from those experiences that means that you'll ultimately be a better driver in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. And it's some good life experience as well, I'm at it.
Yeah, keep on going. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of add, or that we perhaps haven't covered? I'd like to say a bit of a thanks to my sponsors, obviously. So one of my main sponsors is a generator company called WBPS. So if anyone watching does need a generator, by all means, give them a shout, because they've supported me so much. Again, I couldn't have done it this year. And I've had a lot of support from, again, my company, Wingate, who works in construction, doing temporary electrics, that type of stuff. So yeah, just huge thanks to those. And if anyone does want to, get involved in motorsport, by all means, get in touch with me. If they wanted to come and watch, or maybe have a go in one of the vehicles or something like that, it'd be great to hear from them. Brilliant.
And that includes you. So yeah, we'll get you in a car and see what you think.
Yes. I mean, I passed my driving test. As long as my license is in date.
Right, we're on it. You will absolutely love it.
I'm sure it sounds amazing. Yes, I would absolutely love to. Thank you so, so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks.
A glorious evening. I'm just going to now, let's just stop that recording.